Sorry, followers. I'm not too sure what happened there with Jeffrey and I. Technology. I don't know whether it's my part or it's his part, but my apologies for that. Hopefully, we can carry on with where we left off. Apologies for that. I don't know what really happened, but technology, as they say, you know. Welcome, Denise. Thank you very much for joining. Ikia carried exactly what happened there. So hopefully, those who got cut off, maybe we can join ourselves back again. Hopefully, Jeffrey will join us shortly. But I'm really sorry. I'm not sure what happened there. John
Jeffrey
Rick,
joined.
Jeffrey, thank you. There you are. We still can't see you, but I'm really sorry. I'm not too sure what happened. Denise, you're not late. You're not late at all. But I think Jeffrey can probably maybe run through, a couple of things when it comes to the individuals to ensure that they're being productive. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened there, Jeffrey. It just went off
Yeah,
strangely.
you see how many
So
miles? How many miles are there between here and Accra? You understand? Connectivity. We're expecting something to work all the time. We always have to have a
I
plan B,
know,
right?
I know, right?
Hey, you know what?
Thank you for joining. Akosia, thank you. I'm so sorry. I'm not too sure what happened there. So for those who are joining, I do apologize for that. Hopefully, Jeffrey can reiterate on the individual bit, and then we can carry on with our conversation. But I do apologize for that. So Jeffrey, I think over to you now.
Okay, so like I said, when it comes to the individual, right, the
Yeah.
starting point, like I said earlier, it's important for us to really ask for what we need to be productive at home, right? Sometimes we fail to ask for what we need, but then we turn around and we say the organization is not supporting us. We need to go and ask for what we need, right? So we have to be clear on what we need. We also have to reach out to our leaders and ask our leaders what is going to be expected of us as people working from home, right? You want to clearly set goals with your leadership. You want to be clear that each party understands what is expected from each other. Now, once you have that piece done, when you come back home, the next phase really is you coming up with a game plan, knowing that anything can happen. It's important that you come up with your own game plan, right, on how you are going to meet those targets. An example was what I shared with, me knowing that my client demands my project to be completed by August 14th, but I set my own goal of finishing it by August the 8th. So it gives me a 6-day buffer, right? You want to, like I said, and also you want to play to your strengths, like I said earlier. You want to be sure, you want to ask yourself, and it all comes down to knowing yourself, right? Some people thrive on energy. Some people thrive on talking to people. If that's the case, well, you know what? Go talk to people and come back immediately after that and do the work. But the work has to be done. So you have to be knowledgeable of, you have to be knowledgeable of when you are productive. Make sure you are productive. Also, if you know, for example, that your client is going to check on quality, right? Don't wait and get 200 pieces done out of 200 before you go check quality. When you have 3 or 4 done, you want to go and get a feedback on quality. So what I mean that you want to calibrate as you go, constantly checking, so that by the time you are ready to deliver, what you deliver is of the quality that they're looking for, right? You want to be clear that you understand how they're going to track your performance. I mean, I know organizations, I worked for a certain organization where anytime I left my computer for more than 5 minutes, when I came back, the system logged me out and I had to log back
But Jeffrey, I don't know if we are that sophisticated. Maybe it's that part of the world, but I'm not sure. Maybe there are some companies doing it here. I'm not sure. But I don't know if there are a lot of companies, especially SMEs, who can do that or can't even afford to do that.
Yes. So I think that in every environment, you have to look at what is doable, what the level of the technology that they have, if it's appropriate enough, right? Basically, there has to be some kind of a contractual agreement upfront on expectations, on deliverables, and things like that. The employee, the employee, you need to be sure that what you are being expected to produce or the level of performance, the productivity level that you are being expected to show, right, is something that you can accommodate. Typically, I would set it slightly below my own capabilities because you constantly want to go above and beyond. And then
I
you also
see.
have to be willing to ask for feedback. Like, I mean,
Right.
most of the time, one of the things I did with my bosses was anytime we had one-on-ones, I would ask that one question at the end of every meeting. Am I meeting your expectations? I don't want to wait to the end of the year to get fired.
I
If
see.
I'm not meeting your expectations, fire me now because I want to be happy somewhere. You
I
know what I
see.
mean? And you'll be surprised that whenever they have any challenge, just because you were bold enough to ask, they will give you that. So the whole point here is be courageous, ask for what you need, set yourself up to exceed expectations, and constantly ask for feedback. Keep recalibrating, right?
Okay.
And have fun.
Okay.
Sometimes
Okay.
I have beer in my fridge, right? I tell myself when I finish this chapter and when I finish this milestone, 2 bottles for me, and I'll take care of business.
Okay.
So it's a way to incentivize yourself.
I see. I
Yeah.
see. I see.
I mean,
Fantastic.
if at work I did happy hours, at home I'll do my 1 bottle of beer. What about that?
I see. I see. I see. Thank you very much, Jeffrey, for that. And I think I liked earlier on we talked about the accountability partners, which I think is also very important with regards to that. And it doesn't have to be a team member. It could be somebody that you're close to, or even using some sort of, project management tools to track yourself. To see whether you're being productive and also how you can measure it and stuff. So thank you very much for those who have just joined us. If you've just joined us, we're talking about how to measure productivity whilst working from home. Ekuya Kerry, unfortunately, I think I missed your question. So could you please retype it so that Jeffrey can answer it? And Ken Flynn, thank you very much for joining us. Surabasik, thank you very much for joining us. But Jeffrey, I have a couple of questions for you, and we can look at it from the individual perspective. What sort
Sure.
of, you talked about, Ekuya Reni earlier on mentioned what organizations can do when it comes to employee assistance or employee well-being programs and stuff. As an individual whilst working from home, what are some of the things that you as an individual, apart from obviously drinking the beer as you mentioned for achieving your target, what other things would you recommend, so that we can try and keep our sanity going, so that we can try and have a way of balancing the work-life, the work-life balance, if there's something called that, within the house?
That's a very good question. What we call
Yeah.
work-life balance, we can also look at it as work-life choices,
I
right?
see.
I
Oh,
have
work-life
ways.
choices. Okay.
Yes. I mean, if I don't know if you know this lady, Carly Fiorina. She used to
Uh,
be the former CEO of HP, and
okay.
she made a
Okay.
certain comment. She was one of the most
Right.
powerful women leaders in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she made a
Mm-hmm.
comment one day. She said, "Look, as a female, I would love to be, happily in my home, XYZ. But as a female CEO of a major company, I realized that I was traveling most of the time. My husband was seeing the kids more than I was doing, but that was
I
a
see.
choice that I made. Do you get
Okay.
what I mean?
Okay.
So
I see.
work-life balance, some people look at it as work-life choices.
I
I,
see.
most of my friends, and I have folks on this call right now who I went to primary school with. In the next 2 hours, we're getting on a Zoom party. You
I
get what I
see.
mean? So last
Okay.
night I did some research. I prepped for this,
Zoom
right?
party.
I'm so
Okay.
excited. So in the next 2 hours, right, we're getting
Okay.
to my parents. We're getting on a Zoom party. You have people from all over the world. We're gonna have a
I,
conversation. We're gonna laugh. We're gonna drink. I mean, I'm drinking mine. They're drinking theirs. It's still social
yeah.
distancing. So the
I
point I'm
see.
trying to make is that we have to look at what makes us happy. We have
Mm.
to look at what brings balance to our lives, right?
Mm.
And we
Mm.
will have to consciously create those moments
I
that can
see.
help us to attain that mental sanity that we need.
Mm. Mm.
Because
Mm.
we can't keep ourselves like working all day. Sometimes I
Yes.
step out and go for a walk. Sometimes I go driving with my daughter, right?
Mm.
Those are little things here and there that gives us mental breaks. They help
Mm-hmm.
manage our cognitive load,
I
right?
see.
So I think working from home, honestly, as individuals, we have to be intentional about everything. We have
I
to be
see.
intentional about productivity. We have to
Mm-hmm.
be intentional about having fun as well, right?
Mm.
Sometimes I just
Mm.
drive around town checking out Baltimore,
Mm.
even though I have nothing to do. I'm like, so
I
what?
see.
I'm having fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we just have to create these things for ourselves.
I see. Ekuya Kari has a question. He says, I wanted to find out if there were other rewards that can be given to employees which cost the company little or no money due to the current situation we find ourselves in.
Excuse me, sorry.
It's okay. Bless you.
When you say little or no cost, I mean, there's so many rewards.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The starting point is, I would say, first and foremost, understanding what makes the employees happy,
I
right?
see.
You'll be
Okay.
surprised. You'll be surprised that there are people who. Let me give you an example.
Mm.
Rewards that technically cost
Mm.
nothing but changes a
Right.
person's perspective. This was,
Okay.
by the way, this was not during COVID, right?
Yeah.
I'm a Chelsea fan. I love my Chelsea, right?
Okay.
One day I was at work. There was a Chelsea game, and my boss came from the third floor because his sons also like Chelsea, right?
I
And they were
see.
texting about the game. And he came to me and he said, Jeffrey, I know you're at work, but let me tell you something. I know you are not here. And he was absolutely correct. I was texting
Right.
friends, asking what's the score, what's going on. He just said, go home and watch the
Go
game.
home and watch it.
And I
Okay.
never forgot that day.
I
So when we
see.
talk about incentives that are not expensive,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm.
We have to
Mm.
let our leaders, right, have conversations with their direct reports
Right.
and find out really what makes those direct reports tick, right? If
Mm.
somebody has a
Mm.
wedding coming up, right, and then you have a
Mm.
surprise Zoom baby shower, right, that is
Mm.
zero expense. But at the
I
end of the
see.
day, the mere fact that the person has remembered or the person has found
Yeah.
out that his
Mm.
her co-workers, right, have
Mm.
been able to schedule something and really do like a cyber baby shower, that in and of itself is incentive enough for that
Mm.
employee to feel
I
happy,
see.
sanitize, come back and do their work. So
I
I
see.
think that to the person who asked the question, that my
Mm.
direct response would be try to be as creative as possible with
Okay.
cost in mind, right?
Okay.
Always. But it always starts with getting to know what makes people tick.
Mm.
I mean, there
Mm.
was a
Okay.
lady, a while ago, there was a lady on my team who really enjoyed baking. And all we had to
Okay.
do was, give her a gift card, like $25 gift card to attend a live baking session to go and learn. And she
Oh,
was happy.
wow.
You gave her exactly what
Okay.
she's looking for. We just have to be
I see.
creative.
Right. Okay. So basically, we need to be creative in terms of knowing what, would make them tick and, get
Yeah.
them on board and stuff. Okay. Denise also is here. She buttressed your point with regards to asking for what you want. So she said, make sure you ask for what you need. Come up with your own game plan. Play to your strengths. Am I meeting your expectations? That's a question I should start asking. This is very insightful. So, Jeffrey, I think you've made a very good impression on Denise. So she's going to start asking those questions. Hopefully, everybody is in that boat where they feel comfortable going to their boss to ask certain questions, because I know there are some people that they will never go to their bosses. All they want to do is just deliver and just carry on with it. But of course, it's very important that you try and find what ticks with your boss, and then find what their expectations are, so that you can carry on. So I would like to give a shout out to those who have just literally just joined that. Sadat, Akosia. So Akosia is asking a question: how do you measure productivity in a firm that doesn't have a dynamic appraisal system, Jeffrey?
It's that's well, if the organization doesn't have a dynamic appraisal system, right? I
Mm,
mean, if my understanding of what she's saying here, dynamic appraisal system, is
mm-hmm.
something that is adjustable and something that we
Right.
can track by use of technology, just
Mm,
go with, I call something expected business results, right?
I
Where you are
see.
looking at output. So you say, hey, how long is it going to take you to get this thing done? The person, you
I
come to an agreement, is going to take a week. All you have
mm-hmm.
to do is call the person and say, are you trending? Are you trending in the right direction? Are we on course to get this done by Friday? But
I
make
see.
sure, let the person know that on Friday you're going to check quality and you're going to check the output as well. So if
Okay.
you don't have the means to check as we go, you want to just verbally check in with people to be sure that, one, they have the right resources, and two, they are moving in the direction of achieving that goal.
So that's where good delegation comes in then, isn't
Absolutely.
it? Exactly.
Absolutely.
Okay. Fantastic. Welcome, Leila, for joining us. And Mary, Mary is back again. Thank you very much for joining us, Mary. Apologies for earlier on. I think we just got cut off somewhere. Jeffrey, I have two questions for you. So one is from John Ricks. He says, Jeffrey assumes implicitly that we Ghanaian employees are that bold. Boldness interpreted as overbearing. How can we adopt the strategies for our local situation?
Very good question. I mean, I can understand. John, let me look at John's question differently, right? Let me
Yeah.
use an analogy here. When I came
Okay.
to this country, right, The first time I was in class, and midway through the class, one student just got up and walked away, said, I don't need this. This is a waste of my time. She
What?
said it and walked away, right?
Okay.
And I was like, oh my God, what kind of effrontery is that, right? But so the point I'm trying to make here is that depending on our environments, right? Some environments tolerate boldness up to a certain point, and I can understand. I came from Ghana too, right?
Yeah.
In Ghana, sometimes it's very difficult to challenge our bosses, but
Of course.
there's nothing wrong with pushing the envelope a little bit, and we can be polite about it. We really can be polite about it.
That's a very good point. I think it's how we put it across, isn't it?
Yes, we have to be polite about it. We have to say, and one thing I've learned, in my so years of doing these kind of things, right? When you tie the conversation to what is best for the company, no matter how bold you are, your leader listens to you. When you go to your leader and you say, you know what, I know that you don't let me work maybe past 3 o'clock, but I'm going to have to ask to do that because I really care about this company and I want us to succeed. Anytime you say, I really care about this company and I want us all to succeed, it softens the blows for leaders. And they take their time to listen to you. Because once you said that, they know that if they don't bend for you and things don't go their way, they are the ones who are getting fired. Yeah.
Okay. Great stuff. Hopefully, John, Jeffrey has responded to you. But I really definitely agree with you with regards to that. We need to ask, and I think it's how we ask it. That is the problem. And it should go either way, whether it's a senior member of team who you're talking to your employees or even employees talking to the boss. I think it should be, a two-way street as opposed to, that one-way street. Well, we have a question also from Layla. Layla says, how will I protect myself from feeling lonely or isolated and stay healthy? How does working from home affect psychological health? I think we've touched base a bit on that, but I guess yeah.
So the answer to every question in life is it depends, right?
Okay.
So how loneliness affects the individual depends on the individual's level of tolerance for or against loneliness. So what I would say is, it comes down to we, the individuals. If we feel like working from home, especially in a time like this, creates so much loneliness, which affects our mental health, right? We have to ask ourselves, what resources do we need, right? Or what changes do we have to make in our own lives? Let me give you an example. I am, if you can tell, I like to have conversations. I like to have fun. I like to travel. So even though I was used to working from home, it wasn't because I didn't have the freedom to move around. But when the state of Maryland said you cannot leave your home, I was like, okay, you just did not do this to me. So guess what I started doing? I started walking every day, just aimlessly walking around. Nobody told me, just walking around, going to parks, with my mask on. And sometimes I just walked around and listened to music. There were times when I'll go to the bathroom and dance and turn off the lights as if I was in a pub, right? So I created the mental...
That's a big experience, Jeff, but I guess, it works for you.
I put it this way, I created the mental space, the mental environment, right? That made me feel as if I was in that space. And ultimately, I got that feeling. All you need is that feeling to reverse the challenge that you're dealing with.
Yeah. And it's very important also because yesterday I was talking to a psychologist friend of mine, and she was talking about how, in this current state, even to measure productivity, it all boils down to the person's state of mind and everything else. And we need to try as much as possible to make sure that, we're staying sane, in our own little ways and creating whatever makes sense to us. Because, she was saying that recently they've seen a rise in suicidal thoughts, especially in men, and it's becoming a bit of a problem for us because you would have thought women should rather break, but rather it's more men in very high profile, jobs that are actually feeling the pinch because they have to work from home. There's no avenue, there's no outlet for them to be able to just relax. But I think also, as you said, they're not creating their own space and what is fun for them, however it looks to them. So, I think it's a very good point you mentioned with regards to that. Mary said...
If I can add something very quickly, Genevieve.
Yes, you can.
When some of these things start, right? When some of these things start, because it's a change, because it's something we're not used to, just doing something that really resets your mental frame of mind. Some of these things, when we look at them initially, they appear so weird and so crazy. I quite
They
remember
do.
when I
I
told
mean,
my daughter.
you're the first person that says you've gone into the bathroom, turn off the lights, and listen to music as if you're in a club.
Look,
I mean, I'm gonna try it, but I've never thought of that.
I turn on flashing lights and things. Look, my daughter, right? I told my daughter one day, I said my classmates from elementary school and I are having a Zoom party. She started laughing at me. She was like, "This is crazy." She said, "What is a Zoom party?" I said, "You just keep quiet." And I brought my little thing, put my glass of whatever it is next to me, and I started playing music. And then she came and then she watched me, and then she saw everybody dancing. And she was like,
wow.
"You know what? That is cool, actually." You know what I mean? So it's just rewiring our minds, right? Into finding new ways to adapt. Every change is a bit challenging, but over time we get there.
Exactly. So Mary also says polite is the key, I think, in battering in some of the things that you're talking about. Jeffrey, John Ricks said I should tell you he's Eric Danso, just to let you know.
Oh, yeah, that's my boy right there.
Yes. And then
that's
Denise
my boy,
says,
Santa Spirit, man.
Denise
Thank you so much, Eric, for joining us.
No problem at all. So thank you very much, John, Eric, as well, for joining us. Denise says, I think tolerance for such boldness is what makes individuals confident enough to think outside the box. I agree to that. And Mary says, in addition to politeness, you also have mutual respect. And Ekia Curry said, that's true. Being polite does a lot of good. Unfortunately, some Ghanaians don't care. Of course. And then Denise also said, that's true. It's not what you say, but how you say it. So Denise says, well, you can occasionally phone a friend, go for a drive, take walks, listen to music, bake, or even learn a new skill. Anything that makes you feel better. And so it looks like most of the comments are actually battering some of the things that you said. Eric says, in measuring the productivity of employees, how do we account for the mental strain on employees in affecting output? I think you've answered that question already, unless I'm wrong. Jeffrey?
Yeah, ask that question again, if you don't mind.
So he said, in measuring the productivity of employees, how do we account for the mental strain on employees in affecting output?
Well, that's a very good question, right? So basically, if I'm understanding it, like inflation, it's like accounting for inflation, right? We are dealing with a very different time. So basically what they're saying is, if the employee was supposed to, let's say, if the goal was to get the employee to achieve 10, right, we should be willing to accept 7 because employees are dealing with challenging situations. I actually would disagree with that. I would say that instead of waiting and accounting for mental challenges, I will speak with the employee upfront and say, what do I need to do to make sure you are sane and whole to give me the 10 that I'm asking for? If that means that I should give you a much more longer time frame, I will adjust that. Because once you start making adjustments in terms of productivity, what's going to start happening is that people are going to find ways and means to give you excuses to slip away. Oh, you know, I didn't sleep well. That's the reason why I didn't hit it. So my point is, I want to give you I want to give you everything that it takes. And if it means that I'm giving you extra time, giving you money to go play, but give me the 10 that I asked for. And I know Denise said something. Denise said something about she said something about thinking outside the box.
Yes.
My advice to her is, we're living in a time of disruption. So I wouldn't even try to think outside the box. I want to live outside the box. Right? But I want my whole life. That's why I go to the bathroom and dance.
Yeah.
I go to the bathroom, I dance, I sweat, I take a shower. Guess what? Yeah. It's the same effect that would have happened. So at this point, we are actually living outside the box. We're not even trying to think outside of it.
Outside the box. Okay. Now, Yoko, thank you very much for joining us. Jeffrey, that's an interesting submission that you made right there. Thank you very much for all the, the information. John says great. Eric says great information for that. So I think all too soon, we're coming to an end and wrapping it up. If
I
there
don't
are any more questions,
I want to take more questions. I'm just joking.
Well, hopefully we'll have some more questions. But I have a question for you, though.
I hope I have an answer.
I hope you do have an answer. I mean, we have a lot of companies who have a lot of support staff. And when we talk about support staff or people who have their responsibilities or their duties are meant to be on site. And obviously, because of COVID and all that, these people are having to work on shift basis. So with some working, some being at home and then they'll come to work and then the others being at home. With those type of people, of course, there isn't any way that you can measure productivity. And obviously, you wouldn't also want to lay them off because of the current situation. What could one do as an employer to just make sure that they are being productive, not necessarily at home, well, maybe finding something for them to do at home, but then making them feel as if it's not a day off, quote unquote, but rather, you've got to do something, even though you are, for example, a cleaner, a driver, because we don't drive around anymore and stuff like that, or we've got too many drivers and we've got to put them on shift basis. What sort of advice would you give, employers who are listening, that if you have that type of people within your business, which we all tend to have, what can we do to get them to be quite productive without feeling that, oh, we've got a day off?
That's a very good question. If I was an employer, right, and if I'm still responsible for paying for the time of these guys, whether they have work or not, right, then technically those 8 hours that they're spending at home, I own those hours, right?
Okay.
As an employer, because I'm still paying them anyway. They can't come to the office and clean. So what I will do in that instance is that I will actually start cross-training them. I will start training them as backups for other roles. So I'm going to send out a survey.
But Jess, sorry to interrupt. How do you cross-train somebody who, unfortunately, could be an illiterate?
Very good. So for an example would be if you want to give them assignments that take very, very little effort to achieve. So for example, if somebody was a cleaner, right, and the person, I feel like the person can be moved into maybe basic customer service, right?
Okay.
What I can do is I can maybe create some training programs, right, for the person to just go online and watch. And it could be something as simple as watch these customer service scenarios, right? And then call back and give me your feedback on how we can improve them. You can use these guys for research. You can use these guys for basic errands, even though they don't have to be in the office. So you have to look for related duties, right? You'll be surprised that there are a lot of people who may be, cleaners, not because they want to be cleaners, but maybe because they never got a chance to attend certain programs. So at that point, you want to try, especially if you intend to keep them for the long haul, you want to look for ways and means to retrain them so that by the time we come back, right, to the office, they would have more than just one skill to present to us.
Fantastic. Okay, that's a very good point, because I think we tend to have a lot of employers who have quite a lot of people in that particular area, and it feels like, they are home just relaxing. As opposed to, well, chillaxing. Yeah, my friend says that all the time. Chillaxing rather than, making themselves use. Of course, they're only used when they come into the office on their shift day. But when they are not in the office, then obviously, what are they doing? Are they doing other things? Because what employers are also worried about right now is that are people taking advantage of the fact that, we're working from home, but then doing other businesses and running other things on the side? Because I remember we had a friend of mine who also runs, she works at the company, and it turned out that one of her employees had actually, because of working from home, is very difficult to track them at some point. And when they realized, he was actually doing some field work for another client somewhere. So, it's a bit dicey when it comes to these things, when it comes to measuring productivity for these type of individuals. So I like the idea of obviously cross-training and obviously making sure that, productivity is also measured in different ways. Buster Boss, thank you for joining us. Akosia Asuman, she said, Jeffrey, it will be difficult to retrain a driver to be a customer person, especially when they are illiterate. I think you touched base on that. Actually, that's a good point, because if a driver to a customer person where they are illiterate, I think you touched base on that already, didn't you, Jeffrey?
Well, I would look at it this way, right? Okay, now let's get into the technicality of it, right? What the driver brings to the job, right, is a set of skills and competencies, Now, competencies and skills can be translated and transferred, right? So, yes, if that, obviously, a driver is not bringing necessarily cognitive skills. The driver is bringing psychomotor skills, right? So, where in the organization can you reuse that person's psychomotor skills, right? So, if the driver can be converted into some kind of a painting job, I will still teach the person painting, so that if we have painting roles where the person doesn't have to be on the road, but the person can be in the office painting, we can still get used. Because remember, you're throwing money at this person in terms of salary, in terms of pay. So if you're paying the person, you want to get some value out of it.
Basically, you're giving free money. Oh, not necessarily giving free money, but you know what I mean. But it's it's a good submission that you've made there. Okay, so all too soon, I think we're almost wrapping up with regards to our session for today. Jeffrey, before we go, any tips in general for organizations, individuals, as far as being productive, measuring productivity, keeping yourself sane, anything at all that you want, people to take away, if there isn't anything else they took away today?
That's a very good question. And this is how I look at it, right? Employment is a relationship. Employment is like marriage. It takes the two parties to make it work, right? So I think most of the time, and especially in African countries, we hear it as if it's a battle. That, you have the employers and the employees, and they keep butting heads here and there. But unfortunately, COVID is forcing us to start treating employment as a relationship. So what I think we, both employers and employees, need to do is we all need to sit down, speak up, and ask ourselves, hey, our business can end up going extinct. We can lose our entire business if we don't work together. So how do we work together? Employees must be more, employers particularly must be more willing, right? Employers must be more willing to accommodate employees from, maybe giving them the right resources, to providing them right mental support, mental health support, and things like that. Employers must be more willing to bend back a little bit to accommodate the challenges that employees face at home. At the same time, employees have to understand that if it wasn't for their employers, they probably wouldn't have a job. I mean, those of us who are contractors and consultants, believe me, if you don't know where your next job is coming from, you'll fall in love with an employer, because at least they'll give you something to eat. You know what I mean? So how I look at it is, for us, the employees as well, it's important that we understand that even though we are home, even though we can watch our soccer games, right, that we have to do our jobs, we have to do them right, we have to do them to the best of our ability, we have to provide the best quality, because at the end of the day, what we provide is what brings money to our clients and our employees, and those things are the things that turn around and put money back into our pockets. So let's start looking at the relationship as a partnership that we all work towards, to make sure that we all stay alive and sane in these challenging times.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Jeffrey, for such interesting submissions and end to it. I think a couple of key things I would take from, for those who will watch it later. I think 3 things that I would take from the organization's point of view, as you mentioned, was that we need to make sure that we have an established already check-in process with our team members to make sure that things are going according to plan. We need to provide the right resources for them to be able to be productive whilst they are home, and then also have an organization culture that supports the mindset and obviously helps with the goal setting as far as the company's objectives is concerned. On the individual part, I think what you also mentioned was that make sure that you play to your strengths, to know exactly what works for you at what time works for you, so that you can deliver excellently. Have accountability partners. It's very important to have accountability partners. Funny enough, I have a very good friend. Every time she comes to me for an idea, and when I said, oh, let's just go in and set timelines, she starts running away and says, Jen, you again. And I'm like, no, I need to make sure you are being accountable for what you want to do. And I think it's very, very important. And importantly, create space for your own mindset, and obviously create space for your mental health to be able to, juggle with whatever makes sense for you. I mean, Jeffrey does parties in the in the bathroom or dance like as if
I
you're in the
have a
club.
Zoom party today.
So you have a Zoom party. I don't know if we're all invited, but enjoy your Zoom party, Jeffrey. And on behalf of me, myself, and the audience that joined us, we would like to say a very, very, very big thank you and for taking some time out. I know you have a cold, but you still decided to still carry on with it. So hopefully, this insightful session would be beneficial and impactful to somebody else, if not now, for later on. So with that said, thank you very much. Ekuya wants to join your Zoom party, so I'm sure she can send you a direct message on Instagram if she's allowed to join
She's allowed.
your Zoom
My
party.
folks and my parents are very kind people. They will allow her.
Okay, so I'm sure she can. Yeah, and Mary says thank you. So Jeffrey, thank you very much. Have a very good weekend. And stay safe. And I'm sure we'll get you back on again for other interesting, sessions and submissions. To my audience, thank you very much for joining such interesting and educative session. Thank you for your questions, your comments, and everything else. Until then, see you next week, Saturday, for another insightful and exciting session. Thank you and have a good evening, Jeffrey. And good evening, my audience.
Thank you very much. Great
Bye.
job.